Danny Kanell with a scorching hot take on Miami. Dude's off his rocker on this one.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. Bowe Bentley, one of the top uncommitted quarterbacks remaining in next year's cycle, is nearing a decision, potentially, and Joel Klatt also a little off his rocker when it comes to quarterbacks and whatnot. That's all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Alex Dono of Locked On Canes is here, friend of the program and one of the all-around good guys here at the network. And Dono, this one is it's something. It's one of the takes of all time. That's for sure. Kanell thinks, the FSU guy, notably, thinks Miami starts 2-3 and misses a bowl game this year. Their first 5 games are Notre Dame at home. That point spread's under a field goal. Bethune-Cookman, South Florida, Florida at Florida State, which comes after a bye. I can't get to 2-3 right there. I really can't. Not that I think Miami is even getting to 10 wins this year. They're not putting up 5.
Well, I mean, if Miami were to start 2-3, and if that were to, as Kanell predicts, laid the groundwork for a 5-7 type year, Mario Cristobal probably wouldn't survive that. I don't feel like that's going to happen, though. I think when Kanell makes a take like that, he's probably right in thinking this is one of these predictions that people will not remember if I'm wrong. Like, very few people will go back. Well, maybe some Miami message boards would. Spencer would. But he probably gambles. Very few people would go back to this bad take. But if he is right by some unlikely scenario, then he's going to get a ton of credit for that, for making that prediction. But listen, like I can agree that a couple of those first 5 games are really tough. I don't necessarily think Florida State is one of them. That's probably at best the third toughest of Miami's first 5. I mean, Miami hosts the reigning national runners-up first week of the season in Notre Dame. You mentioned it's within a field goal. I've seen it at 2.5 some places, 1.5 with Notre Dame favored in some others. So hopefully it's a close competitive game that Miami has a chance to win. I mean, the last time Miami hosted Notre Dame, it was an unusually raucous atmosphere at Hard Rock Stadium. It was one of the loudest environments I've ever been in. So hopefully Miami fans will recreate that. As you mentioned, Bethune-Cookman is a free win. South Florida should be a win. Miami kind of struggled with them in the first half last year on the road, but, pulled away pretty easily in the second half. Florida at home, it could be tricky. Miami trounced Florida last year on the road, but, that was with Cam Ward and with Graham Mertz and a little bit of DJ Lagway making his first appearance at Florida in relief. Now you've got experienced DJ Lagway, so it's going to be a lot tougher, I think. But then Florida State, I mean, I've got a lot of questions, Spencer. They're going to be much better, I think, than 2-10 last year. But that's not exactly setting the bar very high, right?
We can only hope.
Offensive line for Florida State is still a question mark. I talk with Brian Smith from Locked On Seminoles about that from time to time. Miami should be able to win that game even in Tallahassee. So, I mean, I think probably at worst you may be looking at 3-2, not 2-3. Maybe Miami wins one of those 2 games against Notre Dame and Florida. So you're talking about 4-1. I think that's the sort of territory I would lean into. Certainly not 2-3.
I can't see that. Miami will be favored in. Are they favored against Notre Dame, or is Notre Dame slightly favored?
Notre Dame is favored by anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5.
I think the Canes are going to be favored in their next 4 games. That doesn't automatically mean they win. It is reflective of what I think you and I believe, and obviously what the odds makers believe. Miami on paper, Dono, let's not even get to the on the field conversation and what happened in Gainesville last year when Miami housed Florida. On paper, they're better than 4 of these teams. FSU, yeah, they should be better. Are they good enough to be where Miami is? No, they absolutely are not. I think Florida State going to a bowl game this year would be a good season. Miami barely making a bowl game would have people putting Mario Cristobal in the hot seat going into year 5. But the reason I don't like this take on the Canes, Dono, is twofold. Number one, it ignores the fact that Mario Cristobal has been trending this program in the right direction for the last several years. It has been progressively better as time has gone on, and they just had a double-digit win season, and the last time that happened was, correct me if I'm wrong, 2016?
2017.
2017 is the last time that happened. They have a quarterback who's not as good as the guy they had last year, but they have also, you and I have talked about this a lot in the offseason for good reason, they have attacked the weakness that leads me to think, hey, they can be just as good as they were last year. That might not result in them getting to the college football playoff, because I hate the way their schedule works out. It is so wacky to have 2 byes in 3 weeks, sandwiching the Florida State game. I don't understand any of that. Then you've got to play 7 straight on the road or in conference. Last 2 are on the road. I don't like that. It's a horrible break for the Hurricanes. But to say that this roster is going to just go out and do a Florida State bomb 5-7, that feels like an FSU fan who is scarred by 2024 FSU trying to speak this into existence for a rival. That's the way it comes off to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Miami's floor is pretty high, and the floor is high because they've got probably the best, or one of the 2 best offensive lines in the ACC, one of the better offensive lines in the country. I have high expectations for the defensive line this year, especially with the change in coordinator, because too many stunts and twists last year really slowed things down. New coordinator Corey Heatherman has a much more direct philosophy this season. You talk about attacking the weaknesses. I mean, Miami had a bad defensive secondary last year. They got all the guys in the portal. I think they missed out on 1 portal target in the defensive secondary. Otherwise, they got everybody they wanted, including a transfer from a guy who never actually entered the transfer portal in Xavier Lucas, who's probably going to be starter this coming year. So I would think the defense is going to be better. I would think the running game behind the offensive line, and Miami's got 3 really good running backs. I would think the running game is going to be very good. So, I mean, I think Miami's floor is probably about 7 wins. And if that's if a lot of things don't go right this coming season. Then, of course, if certain things like Carson Beck connecting with his receivers go right and the defense plays up to their potential this year, I think Miami is more in the 9, maybe 10, although you talk about the tough schedule, which I agree with you, but they could be in that 9-10 win range if a lot of things go right for them this year. So, yeah, I mean, if Miami's going 5-7, it would mean absolutely disastrous chemistry and or a disastrous number of injuries at a bunch of different spots, which is the type of thing Mario Cristobal is trying to safeguard against with the amount of depth that he's brought in through recruiting and through the transfer portal. So pretty much everything would have to go wrong. Like Miami 3 years ago did go 5-7. That happened in Cristobal's first year, but the depth was paper thin that season. For that to happen again would be an absolute disaster with this roster.
5-7, 7-6, 10-3, make the right moves in the offseason, and I'm supposed to believe they're going to fall off a cliff. Look, it would have been crazy to say that about Florida State last year. I get it. That was literally a historical anomaly that we've never seen in the history of college football. So I'm not banking on that happening again. And if you want to just compare the quarterbacks, I won't even get to the rest of the roster. The quarterbacks, Dono, Carson Beck is not Cam Ward, but boy, is he better than DJ Uiagalelei. This is like those conversations. You don't even need to have them. You don't even need to have that talk of, well, what could Carson Beck be DJ? No, DJ was never as good at his previous stop as Carson Beck was at Georgia in the SEC. This is a guy who's played in some of the biggest games in the country and done very well. I don't think he's as good as Cam Ward, but you give me a slight regression at quarterback, while still being one of the 5 to 10 best in all of college football. You give me a defense that's got new players and a new staff and just needs to be average to be an improvement from last year. I think Kanell is crazy here. Alex Dono of Locked On Canes is never, ever crazy. Always sensible, reason, veteran presence. That is why we like him, amongst many reasons. And another blue chip quarterback will come off the board. LSU, Oklahoma. Where's Bowe Bentley going? We'll check in with Brian Smith next. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action than right now. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So, if you want to put your knowledge to the test, FanDuel lets you do that. And if you want to do that for college football, you can do that too. You've got every Power 4 team plus Notre Dame's win total. You have got conference championship odds. You've got national championship odds. You've got individual games that can be wagered upon. We're just over 3 months away from games being back. So if you want to get in on the action now before the lines move, going up to the first kickoff this year, you need to get over to FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. We may not be far from one of the highest rated uncommitted quarterbacks in the 2026 cycle coming off the board. Brian Smith, recruiting analyst, host of the Portal Podcast, is here to discuss Bowe Bentley down to LSU and Oklahoma. Brian, I'll get your rankings back up here for those on YouTube in a moment, but you've got him as the number 5 quarterback in the class of 2026. Let's start with the latest. What are you hearing about where he is leaning?
Depends on who you talk to, but the latest I heard was LSU was surging. This is a kid that lives just north of Dallas, grew up an Oklahoma fan, but LSU's also had 2 Heisman winners at that all-important quarterback position recently. Coach Sloan knows quarterbacks, etc. You know what? It wouldn't shock me. Like, LSU is a recruiting machine, and if you haven't ever noticed, Spencer, they tend to have wide receivers. Quarterbacks like wide receivers. I will go out on a limb and speak for Bowe Bentley on that. So Oklahoma's passing game last year, maybe not the best, and maybe that's hurting them a bit, but it's still those 2 schools. And the other factor here, he doesn't get to see Oklahoma be resurrected before most quarterbacks make their decision. The season doesn't start till late August, early September. His visit to LSU is May 30th. The following weekend, he goes to Norman to visit the Sooners, June 6th. So that's kind of interesting. LSU is the more stable source. Let's just be honest. How much of a factor does that play? To me, that is the ultimate question that only Bowe Bentley can answer, but I'd heard Oklahoma until today. I heard LSU. So this is wild, man. This is why I love recruiting, and we're in the middle of it, man. This is my time.
Yeah, this is the fun time. And for Bentley, when you look at these 2 programs, Brian, you mentioned that LSU has been more consistent, more stable. I think right now, nationally, it's kind of strange to hear such glowing things be said about the LSU program, because I think there are plenty of people that can look at, the Tigers under Brian Kelly right now and say, well, they've kind of underachieved. There was that Jaden Daniels year. That wasn't very good. Lost to USC to begin last year. Didn't make the playoff. But you look up and Brian Kelly's won, 10 games, 9 games, 8 games. He's won at least 8 games every single year that he's been there. Brent Venables can't say that. Brent Venables has got 2 seasons under 500 right now. So if, and this is an if, of course, because there are a lot of factors in play, if you're just looking at current program trajectory and prestige, between these 2, Brian, I'm taking LSU.
It's not close. The 2019 LSU team gives them an extra bump. That's maybe the greatest football team I've ever seen. But yeah, and there's a chance that LSU's in the playoff this year. The hype and everything they can sell around that. They've got a Heisman contender at Nussmeier at quarterback, another Bayou Bengal that's got a chance to get drafted very, very highly. Some think he might even be a top 10 pick. Those things are going to be selling factors. I don't know what he wants to do, and if his heart's still at Oklahoma, it is what it is. But he's got to ask himself, do I want to go there and risk committing to a school where the coach is on absolutely the hot seat, or the school that's a little more proven, has more talent in LSU? I mean, they're totally different cultures, totally different places, but they're both in the SEC. Of course, that league is massive. But I don't know, man. Like this is why it's fun, though. If you'd have asked me this question, like I told you before the show, 10 minutes earlier, literally, and I'm not kidding, 10 minutes earlier, my answer would have been different based on the intel I got. That's recruiting, though. It changes by the minute, not by the day. It's by the minute. It's awesome.
That's why we record these things as late as humanly possible
100%.
Every single day. You gotta wait. You gotta wait. You don't know when the news is gonna break. It could happen 11 o'clock Eastern time. You're like, wait, what? This is I gotta check. You can't do that. That's just a podcasting peek behind the curtain for all of you out there. But talk about Bentley as a prospect, Brian. You have him as the number 5 quarterback in the class of 2026 in your rankings, with Keyshawn Henderson being number 1, Ryder Lyons, who's still out there, USC, Oregon among the schools, with BYU going after him, Faison Brandon at Tennessee, Jared Curtis, number 1 player in my book, going to Georgia. But you've got Bentley at number 5 ahead of Darion Coleman going to Miami. Why do you like Bentley so much?
He's a little bit of everything. He's a guy that is in the moment, makes throws that just are extremely awkward and makes them look easy. He's a guy that, as a runner, he could probably play slot receiver. That annoying guy on 3rd and 4 that's always open, Bowe Bentley.
Hunter Renfrow. He's Hunter Renfrow at quarterback. Is that what you're Renfrow? There's no T in there. Hunter Renfrow at quarterback.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, he's a freaky athlete, especially laterally. And as a slot receiver, that would work very well. Here's the other unique thing. He plays at Salina, just north of Dallas, tradition-rich program. But last year was his first year. He waited his chance to start. Hey, by the way, for those of you who think about hitting the portal, think about taking your time and getting there. This kid waited, didn't transfer high schools. They go win a state championship. He has over 4,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. Pretty solid stuff.
50.
Yeah. Between running and throw. I don't care what league that you're in, bro. If you're in that category, we're good. And he's doing it in the Dallas area. Like, come on. So he's played 1 year and put up those numbers. Now he has some volume to fall back on and look at film and understand what he did wrong. Good luck to the teams playing him this year, and he's got a high ceiling. I'll take those kind of kids every day of the week because he plays hard. He's got an arm. He can throw it all the way down the field if you need him to, but he's also a guy that'll dink and dunk if you play cover 3 and just roll up in cloud coverage. Okay, that's fine. He finds a way to beat you either way. He's so exciting to watch.
What do you think the impact of getting this guy is for either of these schools? Like, which program do you think needs it more? Because my answer, when I just asked that question out loud, is LSU after the Bryce Underwood situation. I don't think LSU fans, with what they expect from the program and their head coach and how much money is invested down there, I don't think they want to look at a pair of high-end blue-chip quarterback prospects and say, well, got outbid again or got beaten for this time, recruit. Guess we go on to the next one. Like that's just my take on it.
There's 2 ways to look at that. I mean, you're right. Like, they both definitely need it. But Oklahoma, like, they're probably going to get material for 1 year. I don't think he's going to come back for a 5th year.
I don't know. I was talking about him yesterday.
If he can, then it's a different – I don't know the whole story there.
I think he can. I think he could play 2 years if he wanted to. And if he could, I don't know that he'd be one and done and a bounce to the NFL sort of guy.
He's not the biggest guy. Height-wise, he's not the prototype. He's like 6'1 1/4, 6'1".
Nah, he's got a bunch of good traits. He didn't have a lot of elite traits for the NFL, that is.
Yeah, like as a runner, he's great, but in the NFL, you'll get your head cut off. So you've got to be careful about that. But Oklahoma doesn't have a depth chart with anything. Like, he'd be number 2, I think, almost immediately. At LSU, they got more guys. They got Colin Hurley and some other guys coming up the ranks. And there's this thing called, if Oklahoma starts poorly and they don't have a quarterback commitment, what are the chances of Brent Venables being around next year?
I wouldn't say very high in that scenario. They've got Michigan at home week 2. I don't know. There are certainly some other high pressure games. That's got to be top 5 pressure games for a coach.
Yes.
Because you just can't keep going. This is Oklahoma we're talking about. It doesn't matter you're in the SEC. It's Oklahoma.
You got to
It's
win
year
at least
4.
8. You got to win at least 8 this year, minimum.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if they would pull the trigger if it winds up being another 6-7 or 7-6 season. But like, it's hard when you make a bowl game, but it's also like, is that the standard? Shouldn't be, but it is at Florida. Doesn't mean it should be, but it is.
Florida and Oklahoma are the 2 schools I'm like, man, y'all better figure this out, or there's going to be a lot of people looking for new houses. It is what it is.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't think that's insane at all. Brian Smith, never insane. Joel Klatt, though, his quarterback rankings, craziness.
Yeah, they are.
I'll preface this by saying I like Joel Klatt. But even when you like people, you can't like all of their takes. So he released his list of the 10 best quarterbacks for the 2025 season. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh bad. Oh wrong. All right. I don't know exactly where to start with this list, but it goes like this. Cade Klubnik, number 1 at Clemson. That's not a crazy take. I don't agree with it. It's not crazy. Arch Manning, number 2 at Texas. Nope. John Mateer at Oklahoma, number 3. Absolutely not. Sam Levitt at Arizona State, number 4. No shot. Drew Aller at Penn State, number 5. That's probably right, but by accident. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, number 6. Oh, man. I don't want to scream into the mic because I don't want to disrupt your ears or speakers or however you're listening to or watching this show. DJ Lagway of Florida, number 7. Don't hate it. Lenore Sellers at South Carolina, number 8. Don't hate it. Luke Altmaier, Illinois, number 9. Maybe a slot or 2 high. Luke Altmaier feels like someone that could be just on the outside looking in until I realize everybody else who is on this list. And Carson Beck at Miami, number 10. I think the premise of this list is if you were going into this 2025 season, who would you most want to have at quarterback? The answer is Garrett Nussmeier. The answer is so clearly, to me, Garrett Nussmeier. Veteran guy, proven track record, NFL traits. Which of these guys is going to be a high-end NFL draft pick? It could be Drew Aller. I think the NFL scouting community is going to, in some circles, talk themselves into Drew Aller's Josh Allen, where he has this huge size and this big arm, and he doesn't run quite as much as Allen, but he's got this Ben Roethlisberger quality to him. From the state of Pennsylvania, by the way, at least that's where he plays college ball. And yeah, that's something they'll talk themselves into. Drew Aller might be the best quarterback in the Big Ten coming into this year. That's not a title I expect him to be able to firmly grasp onto. I think he can. I don't necessarily expect it. Going into the year, yeah, I'd take Drew Aller over every other quarterback in the Big Ten. Why? He's more proven than those guys. And when you combine the physical traits, it's really good. I like that Luke Altmaier is on this list. I don't know that he should be higher than 10. He certainly should not be above Carson Beck. Carson Beck gets so much hate. This is one of those off-season things that we as a college football community talk ourselves into, where a narrative or a perception of a certain player starts to form, and all of a sudden we let that perception grow and marinate in culture. It's like we're in a scientific laboratory and we just put a little, you're going to see how little I know about science here in just a moment. You put a bacteria onto one of those little petri dish things, and I just randomly thought of Jalen Petrie, safety from Baylor. I think he got drafted by the Texans. Good player. Anyway, I don't think his name is related to those dishes. You put a bacteria in a petri dish and you put it in the right temperature settings, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And then you come back and you go, whoa, this was one bacteria when we left. Now it's taken up the whole dish. That can happen with players. I think that's happening with Carson Beck. When I just say, hey, think of Carson Beck, what do you think of? Interceptions? Probably. Because that's all we talked about last year, was that he threw a bunch of interceptions. We forget how many yards he actually threw for, or how many yards he's thrown for in his career, or the fact that if he hadn't played last season in college football, he probably would have been a first-round pick in the NFL draft. That's not the be-all, end-all, of course. Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So, too, was... what's another bad example? Christian Ponder was a first-round draft pick. Mitch Trubisky was a first-round draft pick. So the NFL has their own evaluation metric. But to have Garrett Nussmeier at LSU as the 6th best quarterback, there is no way. There's no way. With the track record of all these guys, you could talk me into Cade Klubnik at Clemson. You could. Right now, my national champion pick is probably one of Texas, Clemson, or Penn State. You could talk me into any of those teams. I might lean towards Clemson because Cade Klubnik is going into his 3rd full year starting with the same coach and the same offensive coordinator and good weapons, and they bring in Tom Allen to be the defense coordinator. I like the situation they've got going there in Clemson, South Carolina. Cade Klubnik, though, I'd put him number 2. I like Garrett Nussmeier number 1. But if you flip those back and forth, it's okay. That's like if, I'm partial to Rogue One as the best Star Wars movie. If you're an Empire Strikes Back sort of person, then you know what? That's fine. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're off your rocker. I'm going to tell you you are insane if you would rather have, I like Sam Levitt at Arizona State. No shot. No shot. None. Zero. Zilch. I am taking Sam Levitt over Garrett Nussmeier if you give me my choice. If I can take either of those guys, I'm not taking John Mateer. I'm not taking Arch Manning. None of those guys have proven they can be good quarterbacks in the SEC. Garrett Nussmeier has proven that. Does that mean nothing to anybody anymore? I know he threw 12 interceptions last year, but this is a guy that went for over 4,000 yards through the air, 64% completion, and was not on a team that was great and will be expected to be great going into this year. But I'm not taking Nussmeier over Drew Aller. Who do you trust more in a big spot? I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier. I've seen Sam Levitt have one good season at Arizona State. He'd be in my list of top 10 quarterbacks. Above Nussmeier? No way. Mateer, talked about him on yesterday's show. Real question marks there. Potential, yes. Great runner. What is he as a passer in the SEC? I don't know. I know what Garrett Nussmeier is at the very least. His floor is higher than the ceiling for several guys on this list. So I think Klatt is... I tell you what, my favorite inclusion here is Lenoris Sellers. Lenoris Sellers, if you wanted a long shot Heisman pick, I don't even know that his odds are really that long. You can check him out over at FanDuel. Lenoris Sellers is somebody who I think is Jalen Milroe and has the opportunity to be a better passer. Milroe never settled into being a great passer. I don't know why my Seahawks took him in the 3rd round. I do. I get it. But that's who he reminds me of. And Jalen Milroe last year was my preseason Heisman pick. Lenoris Sellers has those sorts of abilities. Go watch what he did to Clemson, the eventual ACC champs, of course, in their rivalry game on the road last year, if you haven't seen it. Dude is really impressive. So, Klatster, my man, if you're listening to or watching this show, I tell you, a couple things on here. I like Lagway at Florida, 7. That's good. Lenoris Sellers, South Carolina, 8. That's good. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, 6. No shot. Absolutely no shot. He'd be my top quarterback going into this year. Cade Klubnik, number 2. Probably Drew Aller, number 3. Probably. I could get talked out of it, though. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.